from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, the U.S. economy may be hot, but rural America continues to sputter, plus the business of Christmas trees.
I'm Charles Denny. Pine, fir, Norway spruce, all species of Christmas trees that could go from this farm to your home this holiday season. That story from Mark IV Farm in Cookeville, Tennessee, coming up on Ag Day.
In agribusiness, livestock herds are getting bigger.
Because extra weight can add extra tonnage and more pressure on demand.
Farm Journal College TV continues to talk toe strap safety and new connections between hunger and political turmoil.
Ag Day, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths with the stock market setting records and unemployment at a 17-year low of 4.1%. The nation's economy looks robust, but the story in rural America is different, according to a new report. Now, this comes to us from our reporting partners over at Drovers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, America's rural counties had 770,000 fewer jobs in October than they did in 2007, just before the start of that Great Recession. Now, since then, urban areas have fared much better, recovering more quickly. According to the report, there are just over 9 million more jobs in the U.S. now than in 2007, but nearly 90% of that has been gained in urban areas of 1 million people or more. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the total number of people looking for a job in rural counties has dropped by more than 1 million people. A sputtering farm economy isn't helping. Analysts say stress is going to be very regional in the year ahead.
It's going to be very regional. Some states are going to be worse than others. Some have fairly sound financials. Like I said, I mean, not all parts of agriculture are stressed. It's going to be mostly a local issue. I know Kansas and Nebraska, that area is seeing a lot of stress. There are a lot of farm bankruptcies now this year than there were last year. So that is definitely the case. So it looks like that could continue into next year, unfortunately. It's going to take a correction in grain prices really to turn that around.
Imke says diversification could help, and if nothing else, people need to look for an off-farm job. Trade continuing to be a major supporter of the farm and rural economies in the last couple of years. Just looking at NAFTA, a new report from Nebraska Farm Bureau showing that pulling out of the trade pact could cost the state's farms millions of dollars. For example, in Phelps County, on a per farm or ranch basis, the trade agreement is estimated to be worth more than $55,000 to the average operation. Nebraska President Steve Nelson says the idea of withdrawing from NAFTA is unfathomable, adding that it would be a disaster for Nebraska and American ag in general. Speaking of Canadian trade, the U.S. International Trade Commission voting Thursday that Canadian softwood lumber imports are hurting the American lumber industry. The agency voting 4-0, siding with the U.S. Lumber Coalition, saying Canada is unfairly subsidizing its producers. Now, Canadian producers will pay a combined countervailing and anti-dumping rate of about 20%. Trade data from the USDA shows Canadian softwood imports falling 8% for the first 9 months of 2017. That's compared to 2016. A Denver Post report says the massive Ogallala aquifer is drying up. The Post reporting that its analysis of federal data shows the Ogallala shrank twice as fast over the past 6 years compared with the previous 60. It says streams in the 8-state region are drying up at a rate of 6 miles per year. Some fish are already disappearing. In June, the U.S. Geological Survey says the aquifer lost nearly 11 million acre-feet of storage between 2013 and 2015. Cold weather draping across much of the lower 48 this week, and that includes some snow. Mike Hoffman has more in today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Winter has arrived in the Great Lakes and many other areas for that matter. Take a look at this picture from Reese Farm on Twitter. They're trying to finish up field work before the ground gets hard near Lansing, Michigan. They say they just got started ripping again last Sunday. It had been 6 weeks since the tractor had run because fields were too wet. So far, there's just a little bit of frost. With 2 to 3 days worth of work left, they say it's going to be close. And taking a look at the weather map today, the drought monitor, you can see it's getting even worse in Arkansas and surrounding states. We'll talk about that coming up and have your forecast, but first, here are some hometown temps.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
For Christmas tree farmers throughout the country, it's go time. They have about 2 weeks left before Christmas arrives. In this report from the UT Institute of Ag, Charles Denny takes us to a tree farm where the owner is pulling double duty.
When you visit the Mark IV Christmas Tree Farm in Cookeville, prepare to spend some time browsing the merchandise. It's not easy to pick the perfect tree when you have so many options. There's more than 1,000 trees here, a half dozen different types.
The two big ones to us are the eastern white pine, because a lot of folks like those soft needles that are easy to decorate. But for folks that have the larger, heavier ornaments, they like a stiffer tree, so the Norway spruce or the Canaan fir comes in because they've got stiffer limbs, easier to hold up the big ornaments.
Owner Alan Galloway gets ready for the coming season with Christmas 2017, his 25th year in business. He knows trees as well as the money side of agriculture. His other career is Area Farm Management Specialist with UT Extension, serving farmers in this area of Middle Tennessee. However, unlike a seasonal row crop, growing Christmas trees is a long-term project, patience required through years of different growing conditions.
To get a 7 to 8 foot tree, you're looking at somewhere between 5 and 8 years for most varieties. A few might take just a little longer than that.
The Department of Agriculture says we have more than 100 Christmas tree farms across Tennessee. Many offer customers the option of cutting their own, selecting one that's already cut, or picking one that's burlap to transplant after the holiday season. As for those other tree farms, chances are they're growing a nice product. Tennessee's climate works well for tree production.
Practically anywhere in the state can grow some varieties. There's certain varieties that will grow better in West Tennessee, the Virginia pines, the Leland cypress, for example, because they can stand the hot weather just a little better. But Middle and East Tennessee, we've got a large number of varieties that we can grow that will grow fairly well in most all of our conditions.
Next year, Allen will replant more trees for future seasons. Meantime, he expects a busy few weeks. So yes, you may have a hard time finally making up your mind here, but chances are pretty good you won't go wrong with any choice. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. When we come back, we'll talk livestock markets and growing herd sizes with Julianne Johnston of Pro Farmer, plus part 2 of toe strap safety on Farm Journal College TV. And later, the UN releasing fresh perspective on the connection between hunger and political instability around the world. In agribusiness, soybeans were in a slide during early trade Thursday. Let's see where things finished up on the floor of the CME in Chicago.
We were seeing corn revert right back to that 350 level. This was a big magnet in the market for that December contract, and I think is going to continue to be for this March contract. There's pretty good support down here, I think, 348 to 350. I think offers some value going into the Brazilian and Argentinian crop progression. I think there are some weather concerns surrounding La Nina that could lower some potential yields there and provide some premium to the market. Now, on the soybean side of things, we saw a big whoosh lower yesterday, closed that gap, 995 3/4. And now it looks like the market's wanting to make its way back to the 50% retracement on the year and the 100-day moving average, 50-day moving average. That comes in between 984 and 988. I think this pocket represents good value on the first test. However, if we do linger down here and close down here, potentially opens the door to some long liquidation from the funds. The cattle market has been under a lot of pressure over the past 5, working on its 6th session. It looks like we're going to get some exhaustion and potentially a little short covering rally. It's been Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures from the floor of the CME.
Big herds and increasing numbers of both cattle and hogs has analysts taking a closer look at market expectations. Tyne Morgan has more in today's analysis from the road.
Here now with Julianne Johnston of Pro Farmer. Julianne, we've been talking about this growing protein supply. I mean, impressive numbers in the latest cattle on feed report. When you look at the amount of hogs that we have on hand, near record levels, it doesn't seem like that's slowing down any.
No, we're going to see production grow in the range of around 4% for both beef production and pork production in 2018. That puts a lot more pressure on demand, right, Tyne? But we've got some good things going on with demand. We have growth in domestic demand because of the economy is getting spurred. And you know, like we're in a period right now where beef demand should see another spurt before the holidays. So we should, you know, continue to keep supplies fairly current and the pipeline running pretty smoothly. And you know, key moving forward is going to be the dollar. And of course, like I said, the economy, but the dollar is relatively low, especially when you compare it where it was a year ago. And that should help get growth in the export markets. USDA is projecting growth in both beef exports and pork exports in 2018. So it's going to be key. The other key is to keep your feedlots current. We've got to keep these guys keeping their cattle and their hog marketings current, because extra weight is going to add extra tonnage and more pressure on demand. I see that as a real key in 2018.
But looking at demand today, looking at supply today, do you think the demand is enough to continue to support prices through spring?
I think what we're going to see, especially in spring, we get that little demand spurt before we get into the grilling season. That should be a really good opportunity possibly to add some hedges, perhaps. But what I'm really seeing right now is prices steady to lower than last year because of a little bit of growth in production. Puts a little more pressure on demand, so we're going to have to keep prices not too far away from where they've been in 2017.
And real quick, hog prices?
Same thing.
Okay.
I really think it's steady to lower than where we were a year ago in the cattle and the hog markets.
All right, Julian, thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back with a check of weather.
AgDay, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Looking at the drought monitor, Mike, but I think one of the most interesting parts of this story is where the moisture is going to be.
And it's going south of the really bad drought in Arkansas, but there's going to be snow all the way down to the Gulf Coast, according to our model. Kind of amazing. But first, the drought monitor. If you've been following this, you've noticed that this has just been expanding in Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Oklahoma, Texas, northern Louisiana. Going back 1 month, you can see how much smaller that area was, but we were already concerned about it. It's just gotten worse. It's also gotten worse in the Carolinas. Kind of stayed the same up across the Dakotas into Montana. But you can see over the last 4 weeks, as we go week by week, we've just seen this area expanding in the southeastern plains west of the Mississippi River. So that's a concern as we head through winter. The current pattern, excuse me, would not bring you much moisture as we head through time. Now you're getting a lot of moisture down to the south, as you can see with this system. And here's where our computer model shows snow all the way to the coast in Louisiana. Now January, once in a while that happens, but this is unusual for this time of the year. But this is a pretty potent storm system. Most of it's going to be rain. You're not talking big accumulations on the north side of this, but some areas will get some on the grass. I don't think there's any doubt this morning. And then this storm system will continue to move northeast. Now this is a decent storm system as well, coming into the western Great Lakes. This first one didn't amount to too much. It's putting down a little bit of snow in the eastern Great Lakes, southern portions of Canada there. But this system here will continue to dive through the Great Lakes. So some areas away from the lakes will get some light snow, 1 to 3 inches. But lake effect areas may get over a half foot in some areas. High pressure, though, you can see by tomorrow morning kind of dominating the western half of the country west of the Mississippi. Most of these are pretty cold air masses as well. You can see that storm system then by late in the day tomorrow still just kind of touching the far southeastern portions of New England with a little bit of snow and rain. There's the rainfall estimate, precipitation estimate, I should say, past 24 hours. Adding in the next 36, you can see parts of Florida, parts of the southeast get 2 inches or more of rainfall or melted snow. And you can see that's all snow across the Great Lakes. And we'll add on the next 36 hours. You can see just a little bit on the northern fringe of the rain down south, but most of it's going to be in the Great Lakes area. You can see high temperatures today only in the 30s and 20s in those areas where it's snowing. Lows tonight into the mid-30s all the way to New Orleans. That's amazing as well, and very cold air coming into the northern portions of the country again tomorrow. All because of these shots of energy coming in the jet stream. You can see how it just keeps the trough in the east, ridge in the west, so the far west continues to be on the mild side. Everybody else is kind of cold. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Eugene, Oregon. First of all, areas of fog, then sunshine. High temperature of 48 degrees. Denton, Texas, lots of sunshine and a bit milder, high of 53. And Rochester, New York, mostly cloudy with a few flurries around, high around 35 degrees.
All right, thanks, Mike. When we come back, it's not just the strap that's important to safety while getting unstuck. Farm Journal College TV is next to explain. And later, the connection between hunger, food security, and political turmoil.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313.
With winter weather, snow, and mud the seasonal norm now, getting unstuck is usually in the cards at some point this time of year, but pulling trucks, trailers, and machinery with the right tools can make a big difference in your safety while doing the job. Here's Purdue University's Fred Whitford.
I had to learn something. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought if you looked at these kinds of, lots of these that we have on the farms,
Right.
And these are just your typical clevises. You've got a pin that goes through it. And the only thing that holds this together is this pin.
Right.
Okay. So when you are pulling, when you have this, in place, and you are pulling with this, lots of times this gets pulled, and it actually pulls it out, knocks the pin out, and then slings this.
Oh, right.
This has killed more farmers going through windshields, hitting them in the head, hitting them in the chest. Right. These are extremely dangerous. They're not meant for what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
The difference, and this is a small one, these are called shackles.
Okay.
And these, if you notice how they're made much differently.
And they're threaded like a bolt.
That's correct.
Okay.
Versus just having a pin that's going through the...
Okay. So having the right equipment could save your life.
This one here specifically.
Right.
Would love to see the farmers buy some of these shackles. People say, well, how do you know they're stronger? I say, well, I know people who operate cranes, and this is how they hook the pieces of the cranes together. And they tell me there's no doubt, they're not even close, that these are so much stronger, so much better.
Okay.
And so what I'd like to see our farmers do is to at least look online, look up recovery ropes, recovery straps, get the shackles get the weights that's going to pull their equipment out.
All right, tackling the issue of global hunger, including what new research says is the main cause. That's next.
In the country. Brought to you by Kubota's M7 series. Learn more about the largest tractor in Kubota history at Kubota.com.
Food security or insecurity is still a major issue for our nation and pretty much all others, even within the most developed economies. Well, earlier this year, we told you about Luke Bryan and sponsor Bayer and their Here's to the Farmer campaign on Bryan's annual farm tour. Well, they just announced the effort provided more than 1 million meals for hungry families across America. And as I said, this isn't just an American issue, far from it. According to a new report from the World Food Program, for the first time in a decade, the number of hungry people in the world is on the rise. In 2016, 815 million people were undernourished, and the number of people who are acutely food insecure or in need of emergency assistance, it rose from 80 million in 2016 to 108 million in 2017, a 35% increase in just a single year. The World Food Program also revealing what it believes is the strong connection between hunger and government instability. It says about 80% of countries that were severely food insecure in 2016 were also classified politically as fragile or extremely fragile. It echoes what people like Howard G. Buffett have been saying for years.
If you don't have rule of law, that leads to a whole cascade of things that then people suffer from.
Today, more than 65 million people are displaced because of violence, conflict, and persecution, more than at any other time since World War II. And often, according to the World Food Program, the driver of that violence and conflict can be traced straight back to agriculture, drought, competition for land or water, weather, and food price volatility. It's a vicious cycle with very few quick, simple, or even easy answers. Does it mean we don't try? Well, of course not. We're farmers, we're ranchers, we're growers, and agribusinesses. If we care about the food we produce and the people we're producing it for, then this is a challenge worth facing this holiday season. And even in tough economic times, let's remember those who have less and do our best to give more from the abundance of America's farm country. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy-duty pickups.